It's the beginning of week 5 on my ES project timeline, and today I'll be providing an explanation on what happened during week 5. Special thanks to my mom and dad for helping me out. For some context, I need to build a project with the inclusion of a Raspberry Pi for my embedded systems assignment. The project I would be building is an RC car and a controller to control it via radio frequency. I began the first few weeks by testing various electronic components that I will be using in the project. For further details, I will be providing a link in the description box to my blogging website. There I'll be providing blogs with full in-depth explanations for each week. Day 1. I started day 1 of week 5 by measuring and drawing the required front shape of the RC car. I used a pencil, ruler, and a compass for the rounded front. I then measured and drew where the front wheels will be. Afterwards, I proceeded to cut and smooth out the front of the RC car by using a hacksaw, a wood rasp, and sandpaper. I then cut the front wheel areas by using a hacksaw and a chisel, and then smoothed them out with the wood rasp and sandpaper. Lastly, for day 1, I soldered the 2 DC gear motors with some long wires. This will be useful to connect to the H-bridge module later on, and I also started planning on how the steering assembly will be built. Day 2. Continuing from where I had left off day 1, I worked on some prototype versions of the steering assembly. I first measured and cut the 2 wood pieces that will be used to hold each wheel bearing in place. And then I measured and cut the holding wood piece that will be held with the servo motor. Lastly, for day 2, I measured, drilled 2 screw holes and screwed the servo motor in place. By using a prototype, I got an idea on how the final steering assembly will be built and mounted in place. Day 3. By using the knowledge gained from building the prototype during day 2, I started connecting the steering assembly together. But it wasn't an easy process. Issues were encountered, as you can see from the footage. I had to take apart and build it again, as some wood pieces were breaking, and another issue was with the servo motor's clip, which wasn't leveled correctly, but luckily at the end, with a lot of hot glue and fidgeting around, I built the entire thing. I then proceeded to measure the different areas where all of the screw and cable management holes will be for each electrical component. And afterwards, I drilled all of the holes using a mix of screw bit sizes. After cutting all of the holes, I proceeded to cut and smooth out the backside of the RC car by using a hacksaw, a wood rasp, and sandpaper. I also cut the back wheel areas using a hacksaw and a chisel, and smoothed those out with the wood rasp and sandpaper as well. Finally, for day 3, I painted both the steering assembly and RC car chassis using white water paint. Note, my dad helped me hold in place the chassis while I painted it. Day 4. For day 4, I started organizing the components that were going to be used and connecting the appropriate jumper wires to them. I only did the joysticks, LCD, 2 white LEDs, 3 red LEDs, and the 1 green LED, as the rest of the electronic components needed soldering to other wires, and as of that moment I didn't have any wires or solder on hand. I then proceeded to finish off day 4 by continuing coding the program that will be used to control the entire RC car. Day 5. Proceeding from day 4, I started working on the controller's case. I started by measuring and cutting the front panel, and then cutting cutouts for each front panel electronic component. These included the LCD screen, the 2 joysticks, the 2 LEDs, and 2 buttons. I then measured and cut the controller's handles using a paper towel roll, although I ended up not using them since the controller's entire body could easily be held without the need of any additional handles. Afterwards, I proceeded with measuring and cutting out the required nest shape for the rest of the controller's case, and then cutting 2 cutouts for both buttons at the top, and finally gluing the entire backside of the controller's case together using hot glue. Day 6. I started day 6 by buying the solder and wires needed to continue from day 4. The wire that I bought is a Cat6 wire. This type of wire is mainly used for networking purposes, but in my case, I'll be just using the 6 wires within it for lengthening reasons. I started by cutting a small portion of the 2-meter Cat6 wire, removing the wires within and stripping the first portion of the inner wires. Then, I proceeded to make a cutout in an area where the controller's battery will stay. Afterwards, I lengthened the 18650 battery connector's wires by using the newly bought wires to solder them together. And afterwards, I soldered the wires and resistors with the controller's buttons. I then stuck on both joystick modules with the front controller panel using string through the joystick module's holes and then covered the entire front cardboard with black cardboard paper. Lastly, I finished the day off by gluing in place the LCD screen and the 2 LEDs using hot glue. Day 7. It's the last day of the week, and I started this day by gluing all of the buttons with my controller. Then I measured, cut, and glued the paper cardboard for the backside of the controller. While the controller's paper cardboard dried in place, I proceeded to put together the entire RC car, screwing in the H-bridge module, putting in place the Velcro ties, screwing in the battery holder, and the IR speed sensor module, gluing together the front wheels with the steering assembly, and finally gluing the motors with the wheels in place. Now while I'm working on my ES project assignment, I also have other assignments that need to be worked on. Therefore, I won't have enough time to work on the project during week 6. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.